event. So welcome, we're live. Um, what are the most interesting current events that happened in the last few days? I was thinking maybe that Brittany Grenner thing.
Yeah, I figured that one would come up.
I mean, like, you guys are American. Like, how do you feel about America giving up a convicted Russian arms dealing dude for like a lesbian basketball player that is a bit of a stoner that hates America?
Yeah, I believe that arms dealer was once said to be the second most killer of Americans next to Osama bin Laden.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was not aware of this. How many Americans had died at his efforts?
So the movie Lord of Wars
Oh, is that him?
Yeah, that's him.
That
So
was
he
a good
was
movie.
well known for exporting former Soviet small arms mostly, and sometimes larger weapon sets to African republics or rebels in Africa to fuel their civil war. But also, he sold a lot of weapons to Latin America,
I
where we
thought
were fighting this war on drugs.
I thought the guy that movie was based on was a Ukrainian, no?
Uh,
Or is this guy
Maybe.
Ukrainian?
I mean, they're kind of indistinguishable at certain parts of Ukraine, right?
Yeah, there's certain parts of Ukraine that are more
Yeah.
Russian than Ukrainian for sure. That's interesting. No, I had no idea that like, so the actual guy that was behind that movie is the one that they released for the basketball player. Wow, seems like best trade ever.
I mean,
Yeah,
it seems to me nothing more than courting his voter base. I mean, the people that votes for Biden are the kind of people that cares more about WNBA over anything else.
Yeah. Now I was at the gym when I saw the announcement, and I don't have headphones on, so I was just watching like the newsreel sort of thing, and it said, it had Biden there with Camilla behind him, and then it had this woman speaking, and it said Brittany Grenner's wife just below it, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. What's going on over here? And I'm reading the captions. I'm like, oh, here we go. They made a big media event out of that, but way to go. I'm sure Trump and DeSantis will have something fascinating to say about that trade.
They already did. They've
they
tweeted
will.
about it. Yeah, but I mean, there's nothing to be changed, right? It's already done. So
yeah. Has Trump started to use his Twitter account because he was returned it, but I think he's been strangely quiet from what I understand.
he has a deal with Real Truth Social,
And
he wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't supposed to post in any other social media other than the one he had to deal with, but that might have changed.
I see. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, he'll probably need to use it if he decides to run for president. What else has been going on this week that that's caught your eye?
On that Brittany Griner thing, I was going to mention that previously I probably would have gotten all huffy puffy and be like, oh, this is ridiculous. But I've noticed the more that I've been outside of the US, just the more I don't really care anymore. And it's really nice way to live. Obviously, it showed up on all the meme pages. It showed up on all my social media feeds, but just really being at the point where like, all right, well, stupid people are going to do stupid things. Degenerates are going to do degenerate things, and just kind of accepting that is a nice place to start experiencing the world from. Now, personally, when it comes down to, I'm not necessarily like a big pro drugs advocate, as guys in the group know. I have partaken in those types of activities. It's been a few weeks after my California trip. There's just a little too much weed smoking, so I usually take a good month off after that. But in that regards, I'm like, okay, well, yeah, she shouldn't have been in jail anyways for THC oils. But as someone who travels quite a bit internationally, you also know there's certain countries that you just don't do that stuff in. There's certain countries where you're like, well, it'd be really nice to bring a pot brownie on the plane or some psilocybin microdose pills, but maybe in this country, not so. Source it locally if I need to.
Are you getting a delay on Jaron Charles, or is that just me?
That was just a bad call on her part in general.
Okay.
Should have never even gotten to that point.
Jaron, I don't know if you can hear us, but there's a weird delay where it's like your head's frozen, but your mouth is not moving. We can just hear you talk. Maybe just leave and then come back and see if that resets it. I don't know. StreamYard is a bizarre thing.
He seems to be doing that now.
I can restart because I'm getting a delay on you guys too. It might
Yeah, maybe just leave and come back. Are you getting
Might
a
be
delay
my
from me,
internet.
Charles?
Yeah, let me get on.
No,
Okay, so
not
it's
from
probably
you, Rich.
all right. So it's probably on Jaron's end. All right, yeah. So leave and come back. Cool. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could be StreamYard too. They onboard like StreamYard's growing huge, man. They onboard so many people now that like I'm surprised they can keep up because they pump out so many new products now. Now they have a webinar product that they've added to it as well. They were trying to sell that for a big upgrade.
Yeah, I once heard that the YouTube servers, the power required to run the YouTube servers is about 1.5 nuclear power plants over in California. Something along those lines. It's very intense. Yeah.
Sounds about right. Sounds about right.
Yeah.
But
There is
Bitcoin's
that
killing the
George
world, right?
Gammon episode that came out yesterday about how they found out there is a hidden federal deficit of $100 trillion, which I haven't looked into, but I would like to
What?
have a look at that later. Yeah,
They've
when I have
managed to
time
hide
today.
$100 trillion.
That was the headline anyway I saw on YouTube, so I'm gonna have a look at that. But if that's the case, we're going in for some serious inflation. Yeah.
Well, we've already had serious inflation. I mean, the last video that he put out, I think I saw him do an interview with Mark Moss. Plus, we were talking about it about a week ago when he was on my podcast, and he was basically like, "Yeah, there's a very high chance that there's going to be a recession next year."
Yeah.
And now it's like there's a 99% chance there's going to be a recession next year that's even worse than what we've been dealing with. Just sit on dry powder is what I'm doing.
Well, yeah, I got rid of all the crypto. I gave up on that.
Yeah, you got rid of that much of it, eh?
Well, a bunch of them got trapped in Celsius. So
yeah, I got some wrapped up in the whole Celsius thing too. That was a big shit show. That was a big pitch, you know, like everybody was like being told just throw your stuff on Celsius, buy Celsius. It's totally safe. This, you know, the Cell token will go from fucking whatever to $150. Like everybody was banging on about it. I'm like, all right, I'll throw some money at this and see where it goes. And it's like, okay, now that's tied up until I can get that back, if I get it back.
Yeah, I keep on getting these notification emails, like the core.
You get the same ones that I do, yeah.
Yeah. I every time it just reminds me, if it weren't for this, I would be in a GT3 instead of Voxter.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm at the point where it's like anything I get back from Celsius is a gift. I mean, I've basically written off in my head. It's like those fucking assholes will give me back whatever I can get back, but who cares? You know, it's done. Like I've lost more money doing dumber shit than that anyway.
Yeah. Actually, the funniest part was when I saw Nick post in our channel, their chair, I think it was loaning officer, like the person who decides who to borrow money to, is this chick that has a bunch of videos on Pornhub.
Oh yeah.
I'm just like, what's your vetting process? Like when applicants come, right?
So hang on, I gotta look this up.
It's great.
Celsius. What was her title?
Like chief lending officer or something. And yeah, it's just
Pornhub,
like,
or was it OnlyFans?
I think it was some videos she made on Pornhub. Yeah.
Watch Jessica Catler Celsius porn videos for no. Hang on.
Yeah,
that's kind of the world we're living in now, though. I think we'll see more and more of that.
Helping people unbank Pornhub girls. There's way too much coming up on this for me to find it, but I do remember that article.
Yeah, this is the company you're trusting your money with.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So their vetting process was that she was good on the casting couch, basically. I guess maybe for Alex. Who knows? That's crazy. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Anyway, I just kind of like, you know, wrote them off. It's like whatever comes. Who cares?
Talk about the decline of West, right?
If anybody knows her name, throw it in the chat. If anybody knows her name, you know, throw it in the chat. You know what this chick's name was. I can't find it right now. Here, let's try one more search. Celsius. Maybe it was OnlyFans.
Is my connection a little better, guys, or am I still laggy?
No, you're better.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like I just had too much stuff going on. If I have a video editing software open, then it kind of kills the bandwidth.
Yeah, if you have anything in video editing, I find that takes up a lot of processing power, especially from the video card. Yeah, I have to get a new laptop. I'm gonna change my setup. Right now I've got 2 computers. I got a laptop and a desktop. And I'm gonna switch it up so that I get rid of both and I just have one powerful laptop that I put into like a docking port. So my entire podcasting station sort of just like off we go. Or if I want to do work, everything's on one computer or in one
The
cloud.
lighting on my camera went weird, but that should be all right. It's got like a yellow filter on it for some reason.
You look fine.
Look fantastic. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Very ambient.
Yeah. It's the Mexico filter. There's memes down here all the time about like Mexico doesn't look yellow all the time. Although today's a high pollution day, so it's pretty cloudy out. Oh, there we go.
So can we ask you about that random screenshot from that girl that was looking for money? Or is that like a topic?
No, that's fine. I have no idea who that was. So someone, because I have like my coaching site, I have like my Men's Shrine site, I have links in my YouTube for coaching sessions. So I'm assuming someone just found me somewhere, or me amongst other people, and just reached out and said, yeah, it was an inbound PayPal request, $25, and said for food, please. And then had like a bunch of emoticons of like bacon and a skillet and eggs or something like that. I have no idea who that girl was. I looked through my contacts. I track all my contacts. I looked on my Instagram. Never seen that name in my life. So I'm assuming it was someone just going through and just peppering out the feelers to see if they could get a beta to bite.
Dude, I've never seen that. Like I get random DMs on like, social media sometimes from clever people that are trying to use thottery to extract money from you. If I can put it that way. I mean, they're pretty easy to spot when you're red pill and you can figure this shit out. But I've never seen what you got there where you get like a random request on PayPal for money. It was definitely a Latin name. I mean, it could have been somebody that...
It was the 4 names, yeah. So probably someone that found me on Tinder, went to Instagram, clicked through, saw my payment page, and then requested it. But it's someone I definitely have never talked to before. I don't recognize the name at all. But I shared it with the group because I thought, okay, well, this is a new level of thottery. Just reaching out to people you don't know, being like, hey, will you give me money for food? It's like, I don't know you.
All right, let's see. Here we go. Jessica Catter. There's definitely links to sex site. Let me hit news. No. Head of institutional lending. Hang on a second.
Oh, there we go.
Head of institutional lending.
I could actually see that working though, in terms of, hey, I'm head of institutional lending. If you want to see me naked, go to this site, and there's probably guys that'll allocate to that fund.
Yep, that's her. Where's the article on the Pornhub stuff? Oh, here we go. Celsius. Hang on, I can put this up on the screen, I think. It looks like the media's been pulled away though, but Celsius's head of institutional lending, Jessica Catter, was originally a porn actress. She mysteriously rose from marketing assistant to managing $2.2 billion of loan, a job typically reserved for people with 15 years experience. Yeah. And you wonder what happened to your money that you put on Celsius. There you go.
It's the world we live in. That's why I was excited to get Charles on this one, because we talk a lot behind the scenes in terms of the clown world we live in, the degenerate West, the decline of the Western empire, cultural influence. So I figured these are all, like I said, for me, I've recently taken the mindset that I don't care. Let it burn. I live a really good life, so I could care less if Trump wins, if Biden wins, if this CIO is committed to thottery in her previous career. I don't really care anymore. It's such a glorious way to view the world, because it is burning down. And
I don't know if you ever get this, Jaron, and I know that Charles is, very, very close to us in this thinking as well. But I did a podcast a couple weeks ago. There was this guy that's a Christian dude. Hang on, let me find his name, because I shared it on Instagram anyway, so it's public. Robert Kowalski or something like that. Kowalski, Rob B. Kowalski, City Fam. So he invited me on to do a podcast. He's a devout religious guy, man of God sort of thing. Was a man whore for many years, got himself right with God, has been celibate, and he wrote a book on I can't remember the title, something like Why Waiting Works. So somebody in his community saw a video that I put out about promiscuity, and then he invited me on for a podcast. We talked for almost 2 hours. Very good conversation. But one thing that I noticed from the conversation from him and also from his audience was they're all like, well, if you're not going to save the West, then who is? And it's like, dude, there's 8 billion people on the planet. Probably like a good, what, 3 to 4 billion of them live in the West, Charles?
Less than that.
3, let's say.
Less than 1/4 actually.
Okay, so
Yeah.
okay, so
I mean,
we'll
we
call
don't
it,
reproduce as quickly as the other parts of the world.
clearly. But I mean, like the people that like we're trying to save, there's over a couple billion people in that category. And like, who do you reach on social media when you're broadcasting? Like, I know maybe like 7 to 10 million a month. That's a drop in the bucket for billions of people. Like, you think that I'm going to save the West by telling guys to man up and like marry these hoes? Like, you think that's the solution, really? Like, not put yourself first, not pay attention to the dangers, not respond accordingly. Like, for them, it's always man up, tell women to be feminine, tell men to be men. It's like, that doesn't solve anything. We've been trying that for decades now.
Well, when I hear something, go ahead.
Okay. I think a lot of people fall into the kind of liberal mindset, liberal and referring to US type politics, where if you want to do something to make a change, you have to riot, you have to picket, you have to burn down cities, you have to infiltrate cultural, academic, organizational, corporate institutions. Whereas for me, it's more, I think my way of seeing it probably falls more into the TradCon type camp, although I wouldn't really necessarily call myself that, in terms of I can't really control what other people that I don't know do, but people within my circle of influence, my friends, my family, girls I date, I can have influence on those people. So hopefully that has a trickle effect, but really it's just a drop in the bucket compared to the larger scale of things. So it's not that I'm actively not trying to save the West, but I'm building a good life for myself. And obviously I'm Western by culture and by nature. So that's going to rub off on people. Yeah.
Like, it seems like the argument is, well, if the car already has 200,000 miles on it, then why are you taking it out for a test drive and putting another 150 miles on it? Right? Like, you're just ruining it by encouraging people to put more miles on those cars. But it's like, we're talking about a used car. You're talking about trying to treat a used car as a new car, right? I'll treat a new car as a new car, but I won't treat a used car as a new car. And what they want you to do is they want you to treat somebody that's got hundreds of miles on them, lots of experience, all kinds of baggage, that they're dealing with. And they want you to go in and save them and treat them like a brand new car, only it's not.
I kind of want to backtrack a little bit and just go back to talking about, why don't you want to save the West? I mean, when somebody makes a proposition such as, let's go and save the West, that's a mission statement. That's a goal that you make up for yourself and maybe others. When you have a goal, you need a plan. Otherwise, it's just hot air. And what's the plan, right?
That's what I always ask them. What's your plan?
Yeah. How are you going to save the West? I don't know any individual or groups of individual will have that kind of power anymore. Not even an organization as powerful as the World Economic Forum. So when you examine this mission statement, it's hollow. And the only thing that you can have actual plans for is how to save yourself and how to protect the people around you.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where I focus my emotion on, is save myself and save the people that I love.
That's what I've been saying. That's what I've been saying. Like, to me, that's my version of saving the West, is to save what I can control. Right.
I mean, I think too, Rich, you have massive influence, me to a much lesser degree, but I have enough people that listen to me and that take to heart what I say. So it's not that I'm not doing my part, but really am I in a position of power to where I can make really institutional change at such a high level? Probably not.
I think the argument that they're making is that you're not doing your part, in the sense where, see, because people don't want to hear other people's opinions or, solutions to a problem. They want to hear their opinions come out of your mouth. So, if their view is, you need to get right with God, you need to just find one girl and settle down with her, completely look past her past. It doesn't matter if she's been run through by 100 guys. It doesn't matter if she's got 4 kids from 4 different guys. It doesn't matter if she's covered her entire body with tattoos. If she's gotten right with God, you should just look past all that stuff and just wife her up and, make an honest woman out of her, sort of thing. And it's like, no, I am not going to say those things, because I don't believe those things are true. I only say things that I believe are true.
It's interesting you brought up religion, because I see many parallels between the ideology that is predominant in our current narrative, which is wokeism, with
wokeism is a religion.
It is, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It meets all the tenets.
And one of the key proponents is that you are imposing that ideology on the non-believers, on the heretics. So when Christianity was prominent, you see people like Jehovah's Witnesses or your religious aunt or uncle, always trying to preach you, tell you what to do, what's wrong, why you should go to hell, right? So, and who are the Satanists? Who are the devil? Who are the enemies? Right? Those people.
Racist, bigots,
now
misogynists.
You hear the same thing. It's just wrapped in a different shroud, but it's the same fanaticism, And there is this desperate psychological need to find a group to belong to, and to have a divine tenet to believe in that is above all else. I think that's a evolutional trait of humanity, is to belong to an in-group and to want to believe in a superior dogma. So that's what they did.
Just as like,
I'll give you a quick example.
Okay, go.
This whole wearing mask.
Yeah.
It's not just about virtue signaling. For me, it's like you're in a soccer game and you wear uniforms so you can identify who is on my team.
Right.
So you go down on the streets, you take Uber, you go to the pharmacy, and you see another guy wearing mask.
So if you wear a mask, you're on the loser team.
Well, it's the equivalent of a religious hat. Whatever religion you
Yes.
follow, they all have some form of headgear.
Yeah.
That's how I identify each other as being the same woke team.
Yeah, I've been noticing this for a while. The only people that wear masks now are either seniors that might have compromised immune system, beta males, or ugly people. I've never seen like anybody that looks like they have their life together. They're still wearing a mask, right? Anyway,
one thing about
it's funny you raise
thing,
ugly people. Oh, sorry. So I lived in the
ahead.
Muslim world for about 6 months, and they wear hijab or burqa. They have
Burqas,
face
yeah.
coverings.
Yeah.
It's funny you brought up ugly people, because the mask certainly has a certain implication, whether it's religious or just not wanting to be seen.
Well, here it's often, I found anyway, not very attractive people. I mean, in Islam, like, this already, like you're a smart guy, but when women are covering up their face, it's out of respect for their husband or their father and their religion, right? There's some very beautiful women in Islam. I think one of the prettiest girls I've ever seen was like an Afghanistani girl, right? It's like they're just there. One of the things I wanted to ask you guys though is, as far as religion goes, without getting kind of too deep into the weeds, it doesn't seem to be something that a lot of guys in our group talk about. Like, it's not something that's front and center. It seems to be like they're putting themselves first. There's not like somebody ahead of that. Is that just me?
It's great. It's great you brought it up. I'm sorry, Jaron, I'll let you speak. But
no, you're
I
good.
always say, I am an agnostic. I think the probability that God exists is probably very low. It's like Bertrand Russell would say, the probability of a teacup floating in the orbits of Saturn, right? But what I know is true is that the human faith is real. The people and their devotion to their God and the deeds that they carry out to express that devotion, that is very real. And I think in a soulless society such as ours in the 21st century, that devotion and that real belief has positive contributions to the world we live in, and I approve of it. So I'm very respectful and agreeable to religious people, even though I don't share the same set of beliefs as they do.
What's the difference between agnostic and atheist?
Atheists explicitly deny the existence of God. So
atheism is a religion, though, which is ironic.
Yeah, and there are intelligent people behind it, right? So you've got people like Richard Dawkins, who wrote many great scientific books, Lawrence Krauss, cosmologist, Neil deGrasse Tyson and Christopher Hitchens.
Agnostic believes that there is a God, but doesn't subscribe to any organized religion.
It's a matter of probability. So there may or may not be one. I just don't know. That's the tenet of agnosticism.
Oh, I see.
Yep. I've got a couple things here. So going back to the Arab eyes, here when I lived in Guadalajara, they're very well known for their Arab eyes. In fact, Elvis wrote songs about it back in the day, and I have a theory that it's because that they cover a lot of the rest of their face to where the beautiful eyes might have been like a predominant evolutionary type thing. It's not based on any science. It's just something I've realized that God, like all these girls in that part of the world, they have gorgeous eyes, and the ones that are descendants of that, and in certain parts of Mexico, God, they have those beautiful almond-shaped eyes too. Also, going back to the religiosity in terms of the cerveza sickness, these last couple of days, I've been fighting something off. Had the body chills, the aches, the nasty fevers, and then I got over it pretty quick. One thing about that is great is like, if you need another reason to be in good shape, guys, when you get sick, it doesn't really knock you off your feet like it would other people. But I noticed something interesting with that. Whereas here in Mexico, they're like, oh yeah, it's really hot during the day and it gets cold at night. You just got something going around. But when I talk to people in the US on like corporate calls, like, oh my God, did you get a COVID test? How do you know it's not COVID? And I thought, like, oh, does it really matter? Like, I have a fever. I'm not going to go out and cough in people's faces, whether it's COVID or not. It's still the same remedy. I'm still going through the same process. And I think getting back into the religious topic on that cerveza sickness note, really in the group, not a lot of guys talk about religion, because I know that I'll talk about not necessarily religion, but spirituality. And you get guys like, oh, that's woo woo, or oh yeah, we don't want to talk about that. It's a bunch of nonsense. But really, Rich, we were talking the pre-call about doing certain types of hallucinogens, that once you have those experiences and you understand there's a universal interconnectedness and there's another dimension, is the idea I like to use. People that are into psychology, the collective unconsciousness, people that are into new age stuff, it's the universe. Some people in California call it source. Well, that's all God. That's all the same thing. So really, we understand that there is something bigger than us. If you don't understand that, take DMT, take peyote, take shrooms, LSD, get back to us. You'll understand what we're talking about. But we don't really know how to describe that. So I think that's where religion comes in. And I've learned that I like to do a lot of thought experiments. So a couple of summers ago, I lived with a Christian kid in San Diego for a couple of weeks. And I was like, you know what? I've never really looked into the Bible before. I'll get into it. We smoked a little bit, did some shrooms. And I thought, okay, for 30 days, I'm going to live as if I'm a Christian. And I'll tell you what, that like, and I identified at that point, everyone has the highest belief system. For a lot of idiots, it's politics or it's sports. Like, oh, my team versus your team. That's their highest ideal. That's the thing above them they live towards. So I'm like, all right, well, I have this God box concept that I structured into my internal belief system. Let's try putting the Christian God in the God box and see what happens. I'll tell you what, if you believe in God and make that your highest belief and will it and go through the process, you will have those experiences. You will see God. You will conversely see evil. And then if you apply any other major world stream religion methodology, well, that could be wokeism, that could be atheism. I've learned that humans in general are pretty remarkable creatures, and that if you believe in something enough, it does exist to you. So a good example in wokeism, people are like, oh, we live in this really racist culture. Well, I have black friends that believe that, and I have black friends that don't believe that. The ones that believe that, yeah, they see racism every day in their day-to-day life activities. Anytime someone's an asshole to them, like for me, I'm like, oh, that guy's a dick. He must be having a hard day. For them, no, that is evidence that we live in this really crazy racist society. And I have other black friends that come down here, they're like, oh yeah, dude, people are stupid. Like, who cares? Like, that doesn't affect who I am. So I really think it comes down to that. If you believe in something, it does exist to you.
So
As a scientist, I will add though, Jaron, mental illness does not make reality.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I came across this phrase, which I wrote down a few weeks ago, which constantly nags me a little bit. And it's truth cannot be told, only experienced. And I think a lot of people that subscribe to what they call their truth, whether it's the scamdemic, a specific organized religion, whatever it happens to be, they haven't actually experienced it themselves. They've just been told. So most people are willfully sleepwalking through life when it comes to the reality that truth is, right? Do you guys follow me on that?
Yeah, you're talking about epistemology. And I tend to subscribe to the school of logical positivism, which there are two types of truths. One is directly perceived, which is, as in your words, experience.
Experience, yeah. That's
or
truth.
Measured, right? Yeah.
That's
well,
truth.
you can
Cannot be
verify it. Well, you can verify it empirically. But then there's the analytical type of truths, which are truths which are deduced. So a lot of mathematical theorems are based on deduction through various formulas, which are numeric facts that are collected through the first means, which is experience. Mm-hmm. So those are the two types of truth. It's always verifiable. It can be reproduced over and over under the same circumstances. Now, there is also a kind of false truth, which Karl Popper talks about. I think there's a way of testing whether something is actually not a truth. Is under all circumstances it's true, then it's not really a true statement. So, for example, with a lot of this feminist theory, I don't have one on top of my head, or intersectional racism theory. It's like if you put people of color on TV, you're culturally appropriating, but if you don't, then you're denying them access to these movie roles. So
You're in a no-win position.
Yeah, exactly. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Therefore, the whole theory is bonkers, right? It's just bonkers. So that's not true.
What do you guys think of the notion of city-states?
Did I lose you guys earlier? Why are we changing the subject?
Well, I mean, like we're talking about truth and like problems and potential solutions to all that. And I'm not disagreeing, and I don't think that there's any point in expanding on that. I think it's a great point, but I wanted to sort of like pivot. So apologies for not providing a segue, but pivoting to the notion of city-states solving many of the potential problems that we're dealing with today. Like, are you guys familiar with the notion? I'm just wondering what you think of it.
Yes. You want to go first, Jaron?
Yeah, I was going to actually ask a follow-up question of Charles real quick, and we can probably segue it back into this. In terms of the science versus religion topic, not necessarily a debate, but I've noticed that lately the term science has been kind of hijacked, where especially during the whole pandemic type thing, people are like, well, you can never question the science. I'm like, well, it's not really science then if you can't question it. And it's been a while since I've been in academia, so forgive my ignorance here if I'm off base. But for me, it was always like a lot of things that I come up with. There's things that I notice in the world. I'm like, okay, well, that's observational. That's something I notice, and then let's look more into that. And then I come up with like just a real quick hypothesis in my head. And in my day-to-day interactions, I'll pay attention to these things. Like, okay, does that appear to be more true than not true? Is it an absolute? There's usually no such thing as absolutes, but I usually like to try to go through that process in my head to come up with new things that I can then share with people in the group or share on my channel. But I noticed that whole notion of that way of thinking or just having independent thought has kind of gone by the wayside in the last couple of years, where it's like, hey guys, why are you wearing a mask? It says on the packet it doesn't work. Or why are you getting the vaccine? Everybody knows that people my age, like my family doctor told me at first, hey, we don't know enough about it. Could be for you, probably don't need it. Like it's either or, it's kind of a flush. And then once the data started coming in, she's like, absolutely do not do it at all. Like people your age are at higher risk from the vaccine than they are actually getting the virus. I'm like, okay. And I just took that information and went on with my life. But these fanatics or these zealots, or to the point like, well, you're not following the science. I'm like, well, I am. I asked Charles, I know you're intimate with these topics too. I asked you these things. Like I asked people that are actual doctors and actual academics and people that actually have done these studies for these large pharmaceutical companies. I don't know. I'm the last person to know, but I asked people that do know.
We have actual doctors in our group. And one of the first things I did at the start of the scamdemic was I was like, yo, what do you think of this? Right. And he's like, I'm not giving it to my kids. Sides and I'm not using it. I'm not giving it to my kids. I don't really see the risk profile. It's not tested. Like, we went right down the entire list of stuff. Anyway.
Well, you do realize that when they use, and by they, I mean the wokesters, when they use the word science, they mean
you can't question it.
The official doctrine given to us from the Democratic Party or mainstream media or the big tech. And that's what we consider science. So, a man is a woman is a man, there's no difference between the two. That's all science. Yeah. Right.
When did the liberal doctrine change? Because when I was in college, which wasn't too long ago, I'm not that old, it was question everything. And that was kind of the liberal doctrine to where now it's like, you can't question anything.
Now it's considered to be liberalism. So it's involved, it's evolved into a form of socialism. Noah Yuval Harari wrote his second book. His first one was Sapiens. What was the second one called?
Oh,
the one.
I don't know.
Anyway, follow-up, like, this minion of Klaus Schwab's today, he wrote a good follow-up book on Sapiens, and basically, he talks a lot about liberalism and how it's taken over the world. It's no longer classic, being a classic liberal, which was like, like you said before, asking questions sort of thing. Now it's shut the fuck up and toe the line.
Well, I want to point out something that's a lot more alarming. I don't know if you noticed, but when I was growing up, going to college, going to grad school, there was always this line that people draw, whether you're on the left or the right, that no matter what kind of disagreements you have, violence is never permissible, right? When you're being educated in school, it's always about a civil discourse where you come and you disagree and you agree to disagree. A thing I noticed, and this is especially notable, remarkable, since the George Floyd protests in, I think, June 2020, that whole line has been annihilated. It's somehow okay now to just go punch a Nazi. If you disagree with somebody politically, then they're a Nazi.
I just want to say this.
Violence is justified.
Everybody that I've seen say go punch a Nazi or wear a punch a Nazi t-shirt looks like they couldn't punch their way out of a wet paper bag. Just being honest, just putting that shit out there.
That's fine. I'm not talking about any group specifically, but I realize that line is gone. And this is a very, very horrifying downward spiral that we're entering.
So
after that line has been passed.
These are indicators, and that's not a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered some of the problems. So I want to talk about maybe a potential solution, the idea with city states.
Yeah.
City states. What do you guys think of them?
I know that idea has gone around quite a bit in the type of like Crimson Capsule adjacent content areas. I know guys in the group have talked about it. For example,
let's actually define it first. So like a city state would be like, Toronto as a city would be its own state, self-governance. Like the only thing that it would rely on from the federal level might be like defense, for example, like something that would utilize, the country's resources. But as far as like making tax laws, income laws, family laws, perhaps would all be, like encompassed in that. Then individual cities could then set up their own policies and procedures to attract or repel who they want in the city and who they don't want in the city. And people would kind of like move from city states, sort of thing, rather than living in a country.
I have a couple questions on that topic. So I know guys in the group have mentioned certain pockets in the group. And when I met up in San Diego with a couple of guys a few weeks ago, we mentioned this. My actual blood brothers had mentioned this, like, hey, it'd be really great if we could just go somewhere, wherever that is, Las Pampas, Argentina, West Texas, wherever it is, set up our own little community and then have us versus them, outsiders stay out, insiders stay in. We live autonomously. But one would be, how do you go about doing that? Two, is it even possible? Like, would the U.S. government allow that? Would the Argentinian government allow that? Would wherever you go in the world allow that? Or how do you even go about doing that? What would that look like? Because when I hear those topics, I think, yeah, that'd be awesome. If I get a group of all my guy friends and we all have the same shared values and morals and life goals and mission, and we could just get together and just make our own little perfect utopia, that'd be fantastic. But is that actually feasible?
I don't think the state as a whole at a federal level would be, keen on the idea, simply because it would potentially have them lose a lot of control. And there's a future, potential the entire city could mobilize to expand or, go up against the government, sort of thing. So I'm not saying that it's going to be endorsed or encouraged. I'm just asking, like, what do you guys think of the concept?
Okay.
I was waiting for you two to slowly reach the conclusion on your own, but the group you're describing, a bunch of guys with the same belief, Jaron, those are the Davidians who were demolished by the Fed in Waco, Texas. Okay.
You have the polygamous Mormons in the north of Mexico, but they run into cartel troubles too.
I can assure you that the U.S. federal government will have no mercy to such a secessionist, separatist movement, whether it's on a city or a state level. It's just not going to be tolerated.
So
yeah, they made that pretty clear time and time again.
Let's say that they don't have a say in it, or that they would tolerate it. What do you think of the idea of a city state as a living opportunity? Like, let's say there's a place in the world, there's 6 million people that live there. It's an urban city. They have everything that you like, for the most part. Then you can apply to go and live there, and you're with your tribe, you're with your people. Like, would that make sense to you? Is that something that you'd protest? Like, what are your thoughts on it?
So traditional medieval city-states like Hamburg or Genoa or Venice, they either have a natural barrier, like Venice is surrounded by ocean and accessible only through a few bridges, or they have very high city walls where transportation is very strictly controlled. And also they rely on these barriers as a form of defense. most of the time they don't have their own soldiers, so they will hire Swiss mercenaries to help defend the city. And usually they are on very good terms with neighboring states.
I was going to ask, like Monaco or Vatican City. Those are modern day examples.
Right.
Less,
they're allowed to exist for whatever value that they offer. Right. Often it's in the form of tributes. I think for modern day city states to exist here in the United States, it's going to take a series of calamities where the federal government is defunct, right? And will no longer be able to interfere. And then you're going to have people who kind of have to go back to the hunter-gatherer style of economics. There will be some forms of bartering and their own local currency, and they will be forming their own, physical barrier to keep the outsiders out. And maybe that's possible, but I think it's going to take a lot of disasters before that ever happens.
Did you ever hear the story about why Switzerland never got invaded during any of the wars?
Didn't they hold all the Nazis' money?
I'm sure there's a story behind gold or maybe rare art, but apparently all of the mountain passes and roads and all the ways in and out of the country were wired to blow. Like they had all the bridges wired to blow. They had all the tunnels wired to blow. And, anybody that they thought were, suspicious, they made sure they got the information out that they were wired to blow, because they would have never gotten into the country. It's basically like right in the middle of the mountains, right? So they had an easy way to sort of defend that space, whether it's a city.
Yeah. Hitler knew that if he invaded Switzerland, he's going to lose all his army. So he just kind of. Okay.
It's also one of the most armed places in the world too. I think everybody there has a gun.
I believe so. Yeah.
Per capita, it's more armed than the U.S. is.
Yeah, their men are drafted. They have mandatory military services.
Yeah, and they get to keep the uniform. They get to keep all the equipment too once they're done with their draft.
Yeah, it's also a direct democracy. I don't know if you guys know. So even the budget for their equivalent of CIA or the Defense Department is voted on every year.
Is that right?
Yeah. They're extremely nationalistic. I remember living in Bern back in 2010. This is Canton Bern, which is in the center. It's a 13th century medieval city. I was just a little up north from the Bärengabe.
Dude, is there anywhere you haven't lived in?
I know,
Europe?
right? Yeah, I've been everywhere.
Everywhere in Europe, man. I didn't.
Democratic Republic of the Congo. You been there?
No, not Congo. That's why.
If democratic's in the name, they're not democratic. I've learned that.
Like Korea, right?
Yeah.
North Korea. But I remember walking around, and there were these huge posters with like a Muslim woman underneath a burqa, and there were these Scud missile-looking pillars, surrounding a mosque. And that was a ballot issue about whether to ban minarets. For those audience who don't know what minarets are, they are the towers around the mosque where, when it's time to pray, people would go up there and they would, sing out the call to prayer. It's kind of the equivalent function of a church bell, but a church bell. But Muhammad believed that human voice is more beautiful, so people get on the towers, on the minarets. So at the time, there were only 4 minarets throughout all of Switzerland. And they're still voting on an issue to ban it, so nobody can build any more of it. I mean, it smacks me as slightly xenophobic, and just looking at the way that they are antagonizing the entire Muslim population in Switzerland at the time with these very sinister-looking posters. And that was a direct ballot, and guess what? They banned the minarets, so no more minarets in Switzerland. That should tell you something about Switzers.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So shifting gears again, this came up earlier today. I wanted to ask you guys your thoughts on some of these podcasts, like Call Her Daddy podcast.
I have no idea what that is. Sorry.
Jared, you still there, buddy?
Yeah, like I said, I've been sick, so I paused everything.
Oh, you got to blow the honker.
Yeah, everything's drying out now, which is good. I don't feel horrible anymore, but everything itches and kind of runny. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that podcast either. Rich, one of your favorite videos you did, I believe it was not this August, but the previous summer, towards the end of the summer, about like doing a digital detox or being aware of what type of content you consume, I stay away from all that stuff because obviously, yeah, gold diggers are out there. There's girls that have nefarious.
It's really hard for
objectives,
me
but-
because I get this stuff sent to me all the time, whether it's by email or DM. So I've seen a few clips of these Call Her Daddy podcasts. Somebody put in the chat that I'm glad they banned them. I'm not sure if he's talking about that podcast. But there's like some of these like girl power, big bad boss girl, sort of like podcasts, and it's like they basically try to tell you how to run men, right? And how to run relationships. And all these women want the strong, virtuous alpha male, but they're basically coding them to connect with these weak, pussified beta males. It's a very bizarre dynamic. That's why I was asking. I was wondering if you guys have ever seen it.
It's one of those things
Wait.
you're like, just got to ask, like, how's that working for you?
Yeah.
You'll kind of get your answer right there. I doubt highly successful guys. Some of the guys in our group, a lot of people think that we're all just a bunch of players. We're going out, we're spending a bunch of plates. There's guys in the group that are very high status and that have been in long-term relationships, that have kids, that are in happy, healthy marriages. I couldn't imagine any of these guys that I've met personally even giving the light of day to these types of girls that consume that stuff. It's just, it just doesn't compute.
Yeah, like there's a ton of guys that are in long-term relationships like me. It's a lot more common than what people think. Let me see here. There's another one for something called Female Dating Strategy. They have a fundraiser. 37 truths you should have been taught about men is the title of it. It says podcast discussion. Is there a list for some of these things? This is something else that somebody added me earlier on today about this call me daddy thing. Oh, Harry versus Meghan is going to be another hot topic next week. Watch when because that new Netflix thing is out.
Oh yeah.
Hang on,
Which one is that?
list?
The Crown or? I think
No,
we get a different selection down here in Mexico.
No, it's Harry and Meghan want their privacy, so they go on Netflix
yeah.
to talk about their personal lives. Right?
Of course, yep.
Bizarre.
By the way, if girls want good dating advice, there is this woman on YouTube by the name of Susanna Venker, Venker. I think she's very rational and she speaks the truth.
Mm.
Yeah, I think you've heard of her works before.
Yeah, I've seen.
I've
seen a few of her rants, and she's pretty good. I mean, there's a couple of areas which I wouldn't say women should follow, but I think like overall, like if they're looking for a female leader to like take some advice from, Susan Vanker's pretty much right up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's this other woman. I think she's Belgium. I forgot her name. Estelle something. She wrote a lot of books.
Esther Perel.
Yes, she's great.
Yeah, she's had TED Talks. She's written a few books. I think I've read 2 of her books.
Yes.
She talks a lot about infidelity. She calls it
that's
infidelity.
That's one of the most famous books. Actually, It's funny because
Mating in Captivity is a book, actually.
Yeah. So I was my ex-wife was not faithful, and I was very hurt by that. And the first book I read was Estelle's book about infidelity, and I learned a lot about myself and what I might have done wrong, and what she actually did to me in the short term and the long term. And then I watched a few of her videos, and then I started getting this video recommendation from about this big bald guy with a big beard.
I've heard of him. What was his name?
Yeah. And then I started listening to that guy instead.
Yeah, well, for somebody that's not like officially trained, people are always like, "What's your degree?" Why are you qualified to talk about this? I'm like, I don't care. Don't listen to me. You do whatever you want. It's just, this is what I've learned works. I've read a lot of books and I've lived a long life, so you do what you want with it. Oh man, I'm there was a time where I was like, wow, I'm shocked that I continue to be right. Now it's just like I'm like, the only time I get shocked is if I'm ever wrong, which isn't that often. And even then, it's like I'm not that far off the target.
I'm starting to come into that phase of my life too, where we talk a lot about intuition, learn how to trust it. Rich, I think you call it the spidey sense. Like when it's tingling, listen to it. Yeah. You get to the point where you kind of reinforce that fact to where I'm getting to the same point where I'm like, how is it that me, who's a regular person, who's not an expert in this stuff, can see these things very, very clearly, and then so-called experts are being carted out on mainstream media saying, "Oh, well, actually, we don't quite know." It's like, well, how do you not know? Can you really call yourself an expert now if just a regular dork on the internet like me can clearly see these things? It's like we're living in this weird societal gaslighting type world, and it's one that I'm getting to the point where I want to opt out of. But I'm Rich, as you mentioned, I'm getting to that point now in my life where I'm very surprised when I'm wrong. And I know that might sound kind of arrogant, and you have to reconcile that within yourself. Like, how is it that I always see these things coming and no one else does?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like people, like I've said many times, dude. A lot of people out there, they just like to sleepwalk through life. They don't want to deal with these realities. It's like, I'm always like, okay, here we go, another strongly held set of religious opinions from a guy that's like, well, if she gets right with God, then why can't you just look past her past, right? It's like, well, how did that work out for the dude that married Mia Khalifa? Like how's that worked out for a lot of guys that have tried to make honest women out of women that were highly promiscuous in their past? It doesn't work out. The data says it doesn't work out, so why would you do it?
Speaking of her, I've seen her show up in my content recommendations and feeds. Is she hitting the wall now and she's going nuts? Something about like shaming guys who date younger women, although she dated older guys when she was younger.
Yeah,
again, one of those things, clown world.
There was a video clip that I shared last week of her ranting to some other girl on a podcast about how men are immature if they date younger women, or they're hurt, or they're it's typical, like who hurt you, or why don't you deal with like your issues or whatever, like that, like get therapy. But it's like
they're hotter and more pleasant.
They're hotter, they're more pleasant, they're more agreeable, they have fewer problems. Like, I can go right down the list.
They're fun.
They're not always the best choice on a long-term basis. Like, I'll openly admit, like people say to me, like, Rich, why isn't your girlfriend 23? It's like, well, she's not. You're right. Like, the best age generally seems to be like 7 to 15 years younger for an LTR. And that's where my girl falls in that range. But I mean, if you ever try to get into a relationship, like if you're my age and you try to get in a freaking relationship with a 23-year-old, it's weird, dude. Like it doesn't go off as good as you think it does. Right. Like,
yeah, I can see that.
You know what I mean?
Well, they're a little too immature.
Yeah, I mean, like on a short-term basis, or you want to explore it, or you want to lean into it a little bit, cool, right? But I mean, if you find a chick that's more mature than her age, like it's not that they don't exist. I just think that they're more rare than what people think. Like there's what's his name? Gianluca Vacci, that Italian, the entrepreneur. He's all over Instagram. There was a
the guy's always on the yachts, and
he's always dancing. He's highly tanned. He's covered in tattoos. That guy's wife is like 23. And I'm pretty sure he's in his 50s, right? But like everything I've seen of them, whenever I see them show up in feeds, like she's totally in his frame. She's a compliment to his life. She's not a brat. She's not out there like, covering herself with tattoos and doing stupid things. So, I mean, like, there's potential for it. But generally speaking, I mean, you're going to have a hard time with a chick that's young to try to, especially a Western woman, to try to invite her into your life as like a girlfriend type of material, like somebody's going to compliment your life and be agreeable and, kind of like go along for the ride.
And Rich, I agree with you there too. Like a lot of guys in the space, like, oh, there's no good girls out there. Where do I find them? There's no traditional girls. Well, they do exist, but the thing is, they get swept off the market really quickly, or they're never on the market. So guys like me who live kind of a location-dependent lifestyle, and I like to date multiple girls, where would I even find those girls? One of our calls the other day, someone's like, all right, for 30 days, you can only date girls you meet at church. I'm like, I'm so busy. I'm not going to like join some congregation and start playing that game. Like the way I structure my life works for me at this chapter of my life. Like, this is not necessarily bad advice, but it's just not feasible for me right now.
I don't know, man. Everybody thinks they have the answers, but it's like, all right, dude, whatever.
We're all trying to figure it out.
Yeah. We're all trying to figure it out along the ride. Charles, you got anything you want to throw on the table? Because all I got is girl shit going forward, and I know you're not interested in that.
I'll listen in. By the way, when you're talking about all the good girls are taken, not on the market, there's a nice 10-page paper it's titled The Market for Lemon. And lemon is a slang for used secondhand cars.
Right.
And it's by a Nobel Economic Prize winning laureate who talks about how if a secondhand car is good, the owner generally keeps it. The ones that keeps on going back onto the car market, there's definitely something wrong with it. So
yeah, guys I found anyway, they don't tend to leave good or even average relationships. There's a lot of guys that will stay in a mediocre marriage just because it's cheaper to keep her than to give up half your shit and lose access to your kids and deal with a fight and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. So I got this list of the female dating strategy red flags and deal breakers. We've got signs he's a no value man, 8 types of low value men, examples of high value men. So let's do examples of high value men versus low value men. Just out of curiosity.
All right, yeah, just keep it general. Charles, you can wait on that one, right? It's not too women centric.
Too much whammon stuff.
Well, you're talking about traits of high value men.
Yeah. So
regardless
actually,
of women.
let's start here because I asked on the community tab of my YouTube channel for women to define what high value is, and I found the answers very interesting. In fact, so let's kind of hit that.
Should be a good bit. I'm looking forward to it.
Girlfriend from the past, video topics. Okay, where is it? Andrew Tate, ton of DMs. By the way, Andrew's supposed to be on, I think, Sunday or Monday. I'm just waiting to confirm the exact time.
Yeah, he got sick too, didn't he? It seems like everyone I know around the world is fighting something off.
Yeah. Here, let me see if it's here.
I find it hard to believe that the top G can get sick. That's just.
I know. I thought he was invincible. I don't feel as bad now. I'm like, all right, I'm just a mere mortal, but it happens to the best of us, apparently.
There you go. Where did that question? I thought I did it in the last 2 weeks. Let me find it here. No, I think I put it on the actual Unplugged Alpha podcast. I'm looking at my community tab.
While you look for that, quick tidbit, guys, when you're renting an apartment, make sure that you keep track of where the sun is at all times. During the day, it's like literally in front of these big ass windows and it just cakes the place, heats it up. And then now it's like coming right in at my face. Something I failed to take note of before I signed the lease here.
Get yourself oriented properly and get some
blackout curtains.
No, not the blackout curtains, like the ones that filter light through, like it lets light through, but it's not strong light. Like they have them in condos downtown. They're like perforator holes, basically.
Yeah, I've got those. I've got something similar to that right now. I think there's just like a little slit where the light's just getting through as the wind blows it.
This is so weird. I could have sworn I put it on the community tab. Maybe they. Oh, you know what? These stupid things, when you do them from your phone app, they end up deleting them within 24 hours. That's what it might be, I think. I hate these new updates that they do because if you don't stay on top of everything, you're basically screwed.
Yeah, it's made for ADHD people, unfortunately.
Definitely.
No.
Yeah. Okay. It's gone. No, it got deleted. But I basically posted the question. I said, ladies, state your age and you tell me what a high value man is. You know what they talked about? He's responsible. He shows up on time. He's got a good job. He has a car. He has a house. None of them talk about
basic standards.
Well, just like very low standards, right? Like that's like the vast majority of men out there going, that's me, right?
And that's utility, by the way. It's not about who the man is in his essence. It's about what is his utility to me. Reliable, on time. It's about me, you see?
Yeah. If she was older and had kids, she would say something like, he would treat my kids like his own, stuff like that. So there was none of them that were saying anything along the lines of, a guy that's handsome, a guy that's tall, but that's how women select men, off the bat, is they select them based on if you use a dating app, anybody that's used a dating app knows that 98% of the real estate on your screen is the optics of attraction. Is this person good looking enough for me to swipe right or left? So none of them actually get into those things. So here on this website for the female dating strategy, it says a low value man will pick you up from the bar after you go out drinking with your friends. LV, that's low value behavior. So she's saying he'll complain about it and whine that he doesn't want. Oh, okay. I see what they're getting at here. So a low value man will pick you up at the bar after you go drinking with your friends. So they're saying that you're low value if you let her go out drinking with her friends because you're complaining and whining to her that you don't want to pick her up and drive her home. He'll ask you if you're hitting on guys. He may blow up your phone while you're out and passive aggressive bullshit. He'll make it clear that picking you up was a favor and that you should be grateful and it won't happen all the time. You have to remind him that he agreed to it and that he'll be annoyed that he had to take 30 minutes out of his evening. So a high value man, contrary to the low value guy, will pick you up from the bar after. So Apparently, high value men let their women go out drinking with their friends in bars. That's not what we do.
All right.
Okay. In fact, he'll volunteer immediately when you tell him your plans for Saturday night. He'll want to make sure your friends get home safely. So this community seems to think that high value men will let you go out drinking and also pick you up and cater and pander to your needs on a Saturday night and your girlfriend's needs to make sure everybody gets home safely. He'll respond if you text him, but will mostly encourage you to go have fun. Go out, have fun, dance with other guys.
Yeah, high value with this narrative is he is a good slave. He's a good servant.
Basically, he's
exactly,
He's a
good-looking, willing beta. If he's early, he'll let you know that he's waiting, but doesn't expect you to stop partying the minute he shows up. Oh boy, this is getting rich.
Which he's high value to her because he's adding high value to her life, but he's getting nothing in
utility
return.
token.
Yeah.
He'll oh dude,
Yep.
It gets better. He'll pop in to buy everybody around, even though he's not drinking and he's actually driving everybody. If you get distracted and leave a bit late, he might be concerned, but he'll be understanding because, hey, it happens. He'll want to know if you had fun. He'll make it clear that he was happy to take 30 minutes out of his evening to support your night of fun.
Girls
What
like that,
kind of
you just
bullshit
Uber
is
them
this?
over to the house. Like that's not dating.
Guys, I'm going to tell you right now, this is a red flag. If you have a chick that follows these forums, this is a red flag because she's consuming this shit, thinking that high value men let their girls go out drinking and partying on a Saturday night, and you have to sit around like a pleb, picking her up, dropping off her friends, and buying them all drinks. What kind of... Do they read this before they submit it and post it online? Like they think this is what a high value guy would accommodate?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Do people actually live like this? Because especially in our group, you know, we're kind of closed off, and most of my friends now are guys within the group or adjacent to it. Like this, I'm so far removed from this stuff. I don't know anyone in my life that would put up with any of this stuff.
No,
like
but this is
laughable.
This is where women get their dating advice from, right? Like from like online Reddit's female dating strategy, or they'll go to like the Call Her Daddy podcast and they'll listen to this chick. I can't remember her name now, but they'll listen to this chick like ramble on about how to get guys to like bend over backwards for them. Do you guys want to do one more with help around the house?
Oh, let's do it. Chore play.
Charles, you in for one more?
Sure. I don't think this type of thinking is the mainstream. I think some women might think like that, but yeah, it's all very different.
It's like the female version of Black Pill, right? Like those spaces do exist, but
it's getting out there. Like this is a definite red flag. Like if I had to add another red flag to my 20 red flags, I think it would be women that follow horrible advice online about what a high value man is or what a low value man is. Anyway, so this next one's about helping around the house. So they go on to describe a low value man around the house. He'll need you to tell him exactly what to do and when to do it, though, because he doesn't really care. When you tell him, he'll get annoyed. He'll probably forget, and you point it out to him. He'll get pissed that you're nagging. He'll do a bad job, and when you ask him to do it better, he'll have a tantrum and proclaim that he's never going to do it again. You'll do 80% of the housework, but he'll claim you split it pretty evenly. He'll make fun of your standards and belittle you for being so uptight. If you suggest hiring a cleaning service, he'll freak out at the cost and insinuate that you're lazy. It sounds like an alpha male to me, not a low value man.
Yeah, you just hire a cleaning service. Like, I've always wondered that, like some of the dogmatic guys in the red pill space, like, oh, you're not a man if you don't mow your own lawn. You're like, who the fuck wastes their entire Sunday mowing the lawn? That is such a waste of time. Like, dude, I outsource all that bullshit.
I used to love doing my yard work. Like I genuinely like having a nice manicured lawn and stuff like that. But I don't do it anymore. Like I don't do the fall cleanup. I don't do it. Like I hire somebody to come. Like they spend all fucking day at it. It's
yeah,
whatever.
Rich, we know what your time's worth per hour. It's on your website. Like you can just outsource that and do more fruitful things with your time.
So we just had the description of what they call a low value man, which I've just identified as a true alpha. So a high value man in their description will help around the house. He doesn't need you to tell him exactly what to do, when to do it. But he may check with you if you have certain priorities. He recognizes when he's being lazy, apologizes, and tries to do better. Sounds like a beta male. If he doesn't know how to do something, he owns it and tries to improve. Okay, that's not a bad trait. If you ask him to do something, he usually does it. Okay, now we're getting into chore play. If he forgets, you remind him, he feels regret and gets it done. Beta male. He may not personally care about getting the housework done in a specific way, but if it's important to you, then he makes it important to him. Beta male. You're still probably going to do 60% of the housework, or maybe he's a unicorn. You're really splitting it 50-50. But if you ask him, he will immediately acknowledge everything you do. He will try to take out other tasks in order to make the division of labor more fair. He'll suggest and happily pay for a housekeeper because he knows you are not a maid. I don't know, man. These
She's writing this from the false premise that relationships are 50-50 in all verticals. And we know that just doesn't work. That's not true.
There's so much to unpack in here, man, with this fucking nonsense that is there a lot of engagement in this? Let me just see what kind of 582. Okay. So there's a few people that are engaging with this. I'm assuming mostly women. Let's see what the comments are. Oh, they don't expand.
I also want you to consider, why would you want to move in with such a person?
Well, I already did a podcast.
Just to serve them, right?
Yeah, well, I already did a podcast.
You're paying.
Why would you want to move in with a woman in general?
Well, a person with that attitude, right? Whether it's a guy or a woman, like, it doesn't matter. I mean, if their attitude is
a crappy roommate's the same,
and you do all the houseworks and you apologize to me when you don't, then why would I want to live with that person?
Yeah, there's guys, don't deal with women like this. I'm telling you, like, as soon as you identify a chick that subscribes to these hardcore type of beliefs, that, like, there's like feminism and then there's boss girl sort of, narratives. And this, like the call her daddy girls, the sort of girls when that, follow the female dating strategy, stories here, don't trust me on that one.
How about this term? When I see the term queen on a dating app or an Instagram profile, I know to immediately unfriend, unfollow, and just never look back.
Yeah. Anybody that calls themselves a queen is never, ever a queen. A queen never needs to announce that she's the queen.
Yeah. Queen Elizabeth didn't have to be like, hey, guys, everyone look at me. I'm the Queen of England.
Yeah.
Her reputation preceded her.
Yeah. It actually goes beyond that. I mean, they don't even use the term queen. It's like, like the sovereign, basically. Mm-hmm. Anyway, what else we got that we want to chop up that's a current event today?
I thought you were asking us about what high value men.
Oh, dude, you want to keep going through it?
Well, no,
I mean, there's a lot here.
I'm not saying we should discuss it from their point of view because it's just a satire. I thought that we ourselves are talking about it.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about what women respond to, which is what a high value guy is they obviously like a guy that has his life sorted out, right? He's good looking, he's masculine, he's maxed out, he knows how to make money, he can make it rain, he's competent, he can fix problems, he's funny, he's captivating, he's not boring, right? Like, and then, like, if you have all those things, trust me, you don't need to do the fucking housework. You're not bending over backwards doing things like that for her approval.
I noticed recently a good benchmark to see who's like the cream of the crop in your rotation. These last couple of days when I was sick, I usually have plans during the week to meet with girls. Canceled all of them. I don't want to pass anything on to anyone. I'm not an asshole like that. But there's a couple of girls that insisted, like, hey, just let me come over and make you something, or let me bring you some medicine, or let me do this. And
does she take care of you when you're sick?
Yeah, and I was quite surprised. It was like, hey, like, I don't know what it is. It could be whatever. I don't want to. I knew I was going to knock it out in like 2 days. But there's a couple girls like, hey, I could care less. Or like, oh, yeah, I just fought something off too. I probably already had it. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm just letting you know that, it likely is contagious. I love when people say it's not contagious. Like, well, then how the hell did you get it? Like, obviously it's contagious. Like, it didn't just manifest within. But for me, I noticed that was a good benchmark. Like, okay, well, keep a mental note of these things.
A lot of guys will, state that there's no real value in women today, right? Or they'll say just get a doll, or just use a prostitute, or whatever.
I get a lot of value out of them. That's why they're such a big part of my life.
Yeah, but you'll only get value out of a woman beyond intimacy if you're a valuable guy yourself, right? Like, if you're sick, if you're a loser, no woman's going to be like, hey, Jaron, let me come over and take care of you. Let me make you some soup, and expose himself to the risk of getting sick and looking after you when there's really nothing in it for them, right? But women are nurturing. So they naturally want, like, that's why women are attracted to jobs like daycare and education and stuff like that, or nursing. So, I mean, yeah, there is a obvious benefit to having a useful woman in your life, because if you do get sick, she will take care of you. I've been sick many times in my fucking life, and if I've had a good woman around, she'll take care of me.
I know. I was thinking I should start lying and saying I'm sick more often. Although
Your boys won't take care of you.
Yeah, although I don't like using the terms I'm sick. I always say terms like I'm fighting something off or I must have picked up something, because I notice that shortens the length of it. It's kind of like the power of speech.
Like even if we all lived in Mexico City, like a block away from Jaron, and we're in a chat and Jaron's like, I feel like shit, I need to rest tonight. We'd be like, okay, cool, man. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
But if you say that exact same thing to a chick, a good woman will be like, well, let me come over and bring you some chicken soup, right? Like guys aren't going to take care of. That's not what we do.
Oh, I'm gonna go see my boys tonight. I texted them a couple days ago, like, hey, I might not make it if I'm still feeling crappy. I don't want to pass anything on to anyone else. And they're like, all right, cool, yeah, let us know. Hope
I mean, if you're shot and you can't walk on your leg, then I'll pick you up and I'll carry you, right?
Yeah, like if someone like has a failed kidnap attempt or something, like, hey guys, there's some shit going down. I need some help. Like they'll start ponying up the resources or hitting up the networks. But yeah, in terms of like, oh, I have a fever and body chills and body aches and I'm all stuffed up. Like, okay, cool. Get some rest.
Yeah,
let us know when you're better. Yep.
I've done grocery shoppings for friends who were sick before. I mean, I'm not cooking for them, but I'll bring them some groceries and medication.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about another topic? We started the top of the show with this whole clown world we're living in.
Yeah.
This one gives me a laugh because my very first job out of college, and my internship in college, I worked for a large defense contractor under the Department of Energy.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's the second time now this guy has been accused of shoplifting, or what was it? He went to an airport.
Oh, this is
this
is the transgender guy that's responsible
the
for nuclear
cross-dressing
waste.
head of DOE.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Back when I worked in that defense contractor in that organization, it was a big deal back in the day. Like this is like 15 years ago.
We had or her name or their name or whatever.
I don't remember. We had an instance at work one time, again, 15, 20 years ago when I was working in this capacity, where someone showed up and all of a sudden, like his name was Bob, let's say Bob, and all of a sudden Bob's like, oh, hey, I'm Susan now. And we're like, what do we do? And and a lot of times those guys got their security clearances revoked because like clearly that indicated that there's mental illness. And this is not that long ago. This is 15, 20 years ago. And it's like, hey, you probably shouldn't have a security clearance if you don't know your gender, right? And then now it's the head of the DOE. For me, like I said, I'm on the outside looking in. It's just funny. Wherever you stand,
just be grateful that he doesn't have the nuclear codes and he's just dealing with nuclear waste.
Yeah.
I got something funny here for you guys. If you guys want to hit on it, it's a ghosting. Do you guys want to do a ghosting?
Yes, do it. Which is pretty common these days. And guys shouldn't get too surprised when ghosting occurs. That's just kind of the millennial and newer generation's cowardly way of saying, I don't want to see you anymore.
Oh, this is a good one, my friend. This is a very, very good one. I saved this on my tab when I came across it on the radio the other day. So listen to this.
She called me last week and told me that she had something to tell me regarding Ava.
They changed the setup here on the browser-based version. I can't speed it up or like drag the bar anymore, so I can just pause it and comment on it. But I just want you guys to listen, and we'll talk about it, towards the end.
Hey, let's bring Ava on for Ghosted.
Hi, Ava.
Hi, Ava.
Hey guys, thanks for calling.
No problem. So, what brings you to Ghosted?
Yeah, I'm not totally sure, actually. The guy I've been exclusively dating, Nelson, isn't getting back to me, and it's really starting to bug me.
I can imagine. What's the story here? Well, first off, let's start from like.
I just want to point something out. Like we talk about soft necks being a very effective tool in dealing with women when they step out of line. Almost every single one of these ghostings is almost always women calling in because they can't stand the fact that the guy's not talking to them anymore. Right.
Yeah, for guys that happens so often, you just take it with stride. You're like, all right, on to the next.
Attention is very when you remove attention, it really does modify their if she really digs your vibe, she's going to do what she can to sort of like fix that problem. Why isn't it playing?
How long have you been seeing each other? What's the status of this relationship? Dating? What is it?
Exclusive. So you guys sound serious.
Yeah, okay, so we've been seeing each other for 3 months, but we've been in constant contact. You know what I mean? So it feels longer. It's been a serious 3 months, if that makes sense.
3 months.
Okay, yeah.
And to be honest, it's been really good. And I was kind of feeling like it was it. I get along with his friends and his family, and he's great. And I have no idea. Like all of a sudden, it's just like radio silence.
Interesting.
This
Okay.
shit gets good, by the way.
And again, how long you been dating?
3 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, early. That's fine.
Yeah. I know there's nothing wrong with that. I just 3 months. That seems like a weird time. Okay. Well, listen. Why don't we put you on hold for a song? We're gonna come back and we're gonna give Nelson a call.
Okay.
Is
Hey.
that 3 months every day? seeing
Ava,
each other
so
is my
far,
question.
that's pretty straightforward. She's been dating this guy Nelson for 3 months and doesn't know why he's not contacting her. Did I get that right, Ava?
Yeah, I mean it's been great. We get along really well. It's been pretty serious, and now he's not returning my calls.
So what we're going to do is have you listening silently on the phone as we call him. Are we all ready?
I'm ready.
I think so.
Okay, let's go find out from Nelson what's going on here.
Hello.
Good morning. Is this Nelson?
This is Nelson. Who's calling?
It's Adam Wild, TJ, and Jax from 99.9 Virgin Radio. Good morning.
Hi.
Oh, hey, what's going on?
Hello.
How are you, sir?
I'm okay. How are you?
We're great. We just wanted to know why you have committed a ghosting with Ava.
Your girlfriend.
Yeah, yeah. At least that's what we're told.
Oh. You guys found out about that, huh?
We did.
The whole world knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I guess just to put it shortly, I just found out some things about her that just don't quite sit right with
Like what? Is she committed tax fraud or something?
me. Not well. I mean, that actually. I don't know. I don't really feel like. I don't think I should say what it was.
See, this guy's a gentleman,
That
right?
might be right.
Don't air the dirty laundry. That's a good rule.
Why don't you? Why don't you just go ahead? Because
Just
like
air the
literally, that's
laundry,
why
dude.
we're calling you. Why
Get
not?
into it.
If you feel comfortable, we
Yeah.
just really want to know.
Unless it's an active investigation, in which case I understand.
No, I mean it's nothing criminal. It's not like that. Sorry to sort of lead you astray there, but like I don't know. It's just I'm not quite sure if it would be worth it to.
Oh, it's
sort of
worth
air
it.
this stuff
It's
out.
worth it.
All right. So my sister Sheila and Ava got really close, like really fast. They met. I had a dinner party at my place, and they met, and apparently they hit it off.
Mhm.
And they sort of started doing their own like sort of hangouts and friendship like ever since then, right?
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm cool with that. I actually like the idea that, the person that I'm dating is like getting along with my sister because my sister is my best friend and she really is. So I was all good with it. They would go, they would hang out without me. They'd go get coffee. They'd go shopping, et cetera, et cetera. And my sister was really starting to like her
Oh no.
until recently when she found out some stuff. And my sister told me about it, the stuff that she found out. And I just really didn't like what I heard.
Are they sleeping together?
Yeah, I thought they were. Are they dating?
Oh,
No, they're not
Okay.
dating.
Okay.
But, all right. So
that would have been
my
cool.
sister Sheila, she called me last week and told me that she had something to tell me regarding Ava. And basically, Ava has been grooming me for marriage.
After 3
What?
fucking months.
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
What does that mean?
Well, all right. So I guess Ava has some like strict 6-month dating limit that she would be proposed to within 6 months because she can't wait any longer. She told herself like ever since she was a girl that she would be married by 30, and she's already 32. So that seems
Oh my God. That's the effect of the wall, gentlemen.
a little.
That's insane.
okay.
Oh, life's
Um,
over.
Then she told Sheila that there was major red flags about me, and that she was determined to turn them green.
Yeah.
Those were her words.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
definitely say that to
Um,
his sister.
Not manipulative at all. Telling your sister that you have red flags and that you want to turn them green. Oh, it gets better though.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So like she didn't like the way that I dress. She hates it. Which now that I'm looking back on it, she always made suggestions to me, like I go to Club Monaco and buy clothing from there.
Yeah.
She's always commenting on the way I eat. She says I eat like a slob. She says I have horrible time management. She's always criticizing me about being late and, not getting things done on time. And like all of these things, like I'm not mad that she has like preferences and stuff like that. But it's the idea that she's trying to change me to fit her little mold in 6 months that just doesn't sit right with me.
That's what a good partner.
Your sister is a snitch. I can't believe this.
Right. Your sister's a snitch. No accountability, no ownership.
I can't believe she told you all that. Like, that was said in confidence with her.
Okay, so Ava's on the line. I guess.
She was. And Ava, this is you said all this? How true?
Yeah, I did, and I just can't believe that she freaking told on me. Like, who does that? We're friends. I'm
Blood
talking
is
to
thicker
her about
than
my
water.
guy problems, and she tells
Okay, but
you.
It's his sister.
Yeah, the guy is.
Like what?
Yeah.
Are you serious right now?
Yeah, I told her all of this so she could help me with you.
Like, guys, this is why baby rabies, this is why post-wall women are so dangerous, is because they're so freaking delusional. Are you unplugging and seeing the code in the matrix? Are you paying attention? Let's keep going.
You can hear it in her
we could work
voice.
together to get you be ready for marriage. Like, I don't get how you guys are all acting like this. Like, I don't think that's that weird. Like, I needed help.
You're talking to my sister that you barely know. She's been my sister for my entire life. And what did you really think was going to happen here, Ava?
Yeah, what did you think was going to happen here? I think everybody's sort of wondering that. You didn't think for 1 second that her loyalties might be to her brother.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought she would help me. I thought that she wanted me for a sister.
Yeah.
She kind of hinted that she did. We
Yeah.
were getting along really well. She agrees with me, by the way,
Totally.
about those red flags. So you're never going to be ready for marriage unless someone helps you get it together.
Get him.
There you go with the shaming tactics, right? You're never going to be ready for marriage unless you get your shit together because your sister agrees with me.
Oh, okay. So you're saying, like, honestly, Ava, like, I appreciate that you have your preferences and stuff like that. But the fact that you think that I need help or I need to fit into your mold is like, I think that's just ridiculous. All right. And to be honest, the fact that you have this time, like goal that you have to be married within 6 months,
I have to be engaged.
Is a major red flag.
Totally
It's a major red flag for me.
Totally different.
People can have their preferences, but I think that the major problem here is that, Ava, you could have just communicated that you were looking for marriage. Like, you could have just said anything.
In
That's
her
like a 6 month
defense,
conversation.
it's way easier to completely change somebody.
Yeah,
And then call their
true.
sister a snitch.
Hey, so let me ask you this. Is there a future here or is this done?
I mean, listen, Nelson, you have so much potential.
Okay,
I
don't
really
talk to
think
people
we
like
can make
that.
this work.
Yep.
I really think I put 3 good months into this. You're improving every day, and I'm not about to let Sheila,
Ava.
Virgin Radio, or anybody else get in the way of this because this could work out for me.
Yeah.
So I will explain it all
me.
to you in person and not on the radio.
Leave
him
And I'll come
alone.
over for dinner
No,
at 8 and we will
No,
get this story.
no, that's not happening. Ava, I'm sorry. This is something that I should have done last week. We're done.
Mm.
I don't want to see you. Please don't call me anymore, and
Stay
please
away
don't call
from me.
you.
Have you ever watched those
And
stalking?
that's how you deal
documentaries?
with crazy.
Have you ever watched those stalking documentaries on Netflix? And like, it's usually the guy doing that. That she sounds exactly like those dudes that like just went way across the line.
So, in full transparency, I've dated a few Avas, okay, like in my 30s, and they're very manipulative. They're maniacal. They're like, you have so much potential. We could make this work. Like, even if you call off the whole thing or say get fucked, you have so much potential. We can make this work for all these reasons, right? And it's like, she's still trying to work on you. Like she's still trying to mold you into something, right? And it's guys that marry chicks like this that get destroyed.
Well, if you listen to the way the girl speaks, she said that so it's like, this can work for me. This is what I want. There's never we language or us language used anywhere there.
Right.
And I think a lot of times I notice in some of the comments for some of your videos too, like guys will assume And girls do the same thing. They'll assume that everybody wants what they want. And like guys will say things like, oh, well, you should only want a girlfriend. You should only date a girl if you want to get married. Like not all girls want to get married. Not all guys want to get married. There's a little bit of everything out there in the dating market, guys. You need to be clear about what you want. But if someone doesn't fall in that category, don't force them. That's going to lead to shit like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you notice the way she's talking about this person, this man. He's just a means to an end.
Yep.
She has a checklist in her life that she wants to go through, and he is one of those boxes she needs to check off.
This
I mean,
could work
using
for
other
me.
people, right? Using other people as a means to an end. That's definition of a sociopath.
What did she
Right,
say was
and-
important? Style, how he eats when he's around other people,
Yeah, punctuality, time
And-
management.
and time management, getting things done for her, basically
Right,
a
right.
slave, right? Like arm candy,
Right.
right? I mean, you get involved with a chick like this, yeah, you're going to get married, you're going to have the party, you're going to have the wedding, but I guarantee you, your life will be miserable.
Unfortunately, it's all too common. This has become the mainstream. I mean,
Yes.
my housemate is in one of those relationships, so all too common.
He might hear you.
Oh, he's not here.
Yeah, I think a lot of times
But he
people
will
create
later.
these
He's going to
A lot of
watch
times-
this later.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely hear about it. I think a lot of times people create these fantasies in their head, or these avatars of what their ideal pair or person should be, and then they do whatever it can to just cram them into that mold, whether the other person wants to or not. It's almost like there's no autonomy in the other person. It's all about me, me, me. Which, Charles, like you said, it's kind of the definition of a sociopath, isn't it?
It's funny because because Andrew Tate got slaughtered for, like, even on Piers Morgan, like, he got attacked for saying essentially, no, I prefer younger women because they have less baggage. They're more moldable. They're gonna form like an imprint on me. They have been with a bunch of guys. I don't have to put up with their bullshit. This is exactly what he's advising you to try to avoid, because this is what you're going to encounter. You're going to encounter a 32-year-old that told herself since she was 5 that she wanted to be married by the time she was 29. She's 3 years past the deadline. She's 3 months into a relationship with a guy that has potential, who she's trying to change his style, how he eats, and what he does for her through his sister. And if you don't think that's manipulative at all, I invite you to crawl back underneath the rock that you've been sleeping under and just go right back to sleep, or call
Well-
up Ava and marry her, and give her a make an
Yeah,
honest
yeah.
woman
Give
out
Ava a
of it.
call.
Well, to put a more positive spin to what you just said, Richard, and a heartfelt advice for all men listening to this: you should not give up your identity for any woman,
Yeah.
just to be with her.
Yeah,
Your
absolutely.
identity, the way you think, the way you live, just being on your own terms, that's who you are, and you have to preserve it.
That is the way of the unplugged alpha, my friends.
I've also never understood the whole idea of, okay, I found someone who has good potential. Now I have to change this person. Well, if you
Yeah.
had your shit together, why do you have to change him? Can't you just go get someone that already meets that criteria?
Yeah, so because women are beauty objects to men, like, one of the common ones that I see is, well, I can take a overweight woman with a nice personality and take her to the gym. Really? You think you're going to change her? You think you're going to get her to look the way that you want her to look? Just because she has a nice personality, maybe a pretty face, you think you're going to get what you want out of that? It's literally the equivalent of those guys that think that they can get women to meet their optics of beauty standards, right?
And even if you do, her SMV will raise relative to yours, or her perceived SMV, and she'll go off with the trainer, or she'll have no more time for you in her life. And we've
Yeah.
heard that story before.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought that was a ghosting worth saving. I always listen to these because I happen to be on the road at the same time that they're live, and they're like, yo, and go to our Instagram, and you can watch the whole video there. It's like, I'm gonna save that one because that's something I got to cover.
What's funny is that the girls call in and they know kind of how these things go. We've shared enough of these. So I'm assuming if you're local to that radio market, you probably have a good idea of what's going to happen. But did she really think she'll call in and the guy be like, oh my God, yeah, I screwed up. I'll totally fit into your box. Let's meet up now.
Well, I mean, if you noticed at the end of the call, like, she made a legitimate effort. She's like, I'm not going to let the radio station tear us apart. We have such a good thing going. We can make this work. You have so much potential. And then this could work out for me.
Yeah. She
Right.
sounds like a stalker. The guy's like,
Yeah.
please don't call me. Like, so there's more to this story. Please don't call me. Leave everyone in my life alone. And she was still pretty insistent.
I've dated Ava. Ava's the kind of girl where you tell her to pound sand and you turn off your fucking phone, or you mute it, and then you go and you turn it like back on, or you take a look at the screen, and there's like 47 missed calls.
Yeah, it's been a while. That's in a former life, but yeah, I remember that. So, is this girl? I know it's an older reference. Is she what people would have called in the '90s like a bunny boiler? Is that kind of
bunny boiler was one of the terms for them?
Yeah.
Bunny boiler was like the crazy girl where you'd come home and she'd be boiling your bunny in like the kitchen sort of thing, wearing like a weird costume. I think that's from a movie. What movie was that from?
Yeah, was that? Wow, what was that? Was the Sharon Stone movie where she opened her legs, or did? I'm trying to remember.
Hang on, where is Bunny Boiler from? Because that's such a profound Fatal Attraction.
Yeah, there we go.
Fatal Attraction. It was Michael Douglas and Glenn Close. Places his family's beloved pet rabbit in a pot of boiling water when he's away from the house. Yeah,
I think the modern day
that's where Bunny Boiler came from.
The modern day equivalent, I had
1987, by the way. That was actually a good movie.
I had a buddy tell me the other day that one of his buddies was a string of like serial monogamous, just bad relationships. Like, oh yeah, by the way, like so this crazy chick keyed his car, and like now the guy's pining over her. I'm like, what? Why are you asking me for this advice? You know what my answer is? Like, ditch the bitch. What are you doing? Like, I think the modern day equivalent, is like what, the key in the car or showing up unannounced. I don't even know. I don't get that crazy in my life. Thanks to you, Rich.
They're just looking for you to co-sign their stupid ideas because they figure if they can get you to agree with their stupid ideas, then it makes them less stupid.
Yeah, like in no world is that okay ever.
Complicate life, justify why, right?
Complicate life, justify why, right? That's what guys have to do. I got another half hour I can kill if you guys want to keep chopping it up. Anything else you guys want to cover that's a current event?
I'm down to keep going. But I don't really follow the news too much anymore, as I mentioned at the top of the show. But I know big things going on globally, like World Cup. I thought it was interesting that, again, I live in a country where everyone knows that international organizations are corrupt, but I think it's really funny. I think Netflix released a documentary about the FIFA organization and how corrupt it was. I don't know if you guys follow football or soccer. I'm not a huge fan, but like it gets pretty festive around here. Mexico's no longer in it, but when they are, it's usually pretty fun. So I'll partake in the festivities, but
yeah,
I don't follow the sport. But going back to like the whole globalism type thing, I thought it was really interesting, that documentary, just how corrupt they are. Kind of the same as the International Olympic Committee, going back to like the 36 Olympics and how they didn't let Jews run on the U.S. Olympic team. I always think these topics are a bit interesting, and a lot of people don't understand these things.
You know what I found interesting? I'm pretty sure it was the Olympics, but the origin of the Olympics was obviously in Greece, right? Where they would run the torch, Mount Olympus, blah, blah, blah. And they would compete. And, it's been going on for a long time, right? They didn't allow, do you guys know when they allowed women to compete in the games?
Sorry guys, I gotta go do some work and head to the gym.
All right, see you, Charles.
No worries.
Great talking to you guys. Bye.
Take care, man.
Yeah, take care.
Do you know when they let women start to compete?
It's one of those things where it's either like a long time ago or it's really recent.
It's like 1901 or so. It was like right at the beginning of the 19th century.
Yeah, when they kind of brought it back, because didn't it go away for like 2,000 years, and they brought it back?
Yeah,
late 1800s, early 1900s.
Very, very recent. Like prior to that, they were just not able to compete. And I mean, truthfully, like there was another article that I saw this week that also tied into soccer as well, where the female. Here, let me see if I can dig it up. It's probably my Twitter feed somewhere. You guys can follow that at Rich _Cooper. Sorry, let me see if I can find it. But there was a bit about how the American Women's Football League was going to take half of the men's winnings from the World Cup.
People down here think that's absolutely insane. They're like, well, they don't get the viewership, or they're not at the same level of performance, or I mean, whatever. There's a myriad of reasons, but yeah, that's insane.
We're at the point in history where a woman can take half your shit and you're not even married to her.
I know that's what I took away from it.
That's just messed up.
Which isn't American. I know we get a lot of shit internationally, but that doubles down on my point that like soccer's not a real sport. I mean, because that's insane. They have female American football leagues. It's actually getting pretty big down here. It's one of the largest growing sports internationally. And you'll see the NFL has games in London. They had one in Mexico City a couple weeks ago, but I couldn't imagine any of these like Powerpuff American football leagues demanding to take half the earnings of U.S. NFL football players. It's completely incomprehensible.
Never happen. The only thing that bugs me about football is the dives. It's like you're a bitch if you take a dive. Like a good
It's
amount,
so funny to watch.
like a good amount of them, and it's like, you know, there's certain countries that dive more than others, obviously, but like, I mean, if you're taking dives, like you're a bitch. Like honestly, like just play the game and be a man.
They're overly dramatic, which is really funny. Again, I've coming from outside the sport. I never played that sport. I think in kindergarten I played like biddy ball or something like that. But coming from outside the sport, yeah, it's really funny because there's not even contact made. Oh,
Yeah, here. Okay, so I found it. So U.S. women's national team will get half the money won by the U.S. men's team at the World Cup. Is
Does
this
it
a
go the
real
other-
article or is this a joke? I mean, this. Hang on, let's see if it loads.
I was thinking this the other day. I'm a huge fan of satire and always have been. And I wondered, like, what happened to Cracked Magazine or Mad Magazine or even shows like South Park? And then I realized, oh, well, they're really not relevant anymore because these captions or these headlines write themselves. I mean, this is satire in real life. It's just hilarious.
It's not the Babylon Bee, so it's not satire. It says here, under the equal pay
That's New York
agreement
Post.
signed. Sorry?
Yeah, it's New York Post. All right.
Yeah, it says under the equal pay agreement signed this year, the teams will split the prize money for the World Cup. That means that both teams will get $6.5 million for the men's team advanced into the round of 16, and will continue to split the prize money down the middle. In terms agreed to in May and formally signed to in September, put both teams in the same payment model through 2028. Wow.
Is that reciprocal? So did the men get the women's prize winnings or half of those?
Yeah, but even if there's prize winnings, like the amount of eyeballs that women's soccer attracts is so small, so the prize pot's going to be smaller. So this is about equalizing, women's pay by taking half of men's pay. The women's team, which has won the last 2 World Cups, has long been advocating for equal pay without success. It took a collectively bargained agreement to buy in from both the men and U.S. Soccer Federation to achieve it. Prior to that, the women's team had sued U.S. Soccer for gender discrimination. The lawsuit settled in 2019 for $24 million. Look, I mean, like, women would only sign this agreement if it benefits them and money flows to them. If money flows away from them to the men, they would never agree to this.
I'm wondering, is this the same U.S. women's team? Again, I don't really follow the sport. Is this the same women's team that got defeated by like a 15U team or like a high school team in the U.S.?
Yeah, there was a women's football league that got destroyed by like a boys 15-year-old football team. I don't even know what to search to find that, but that's definitely out there. I came across that in the past. That was just weird.
Huh. Yeah, again, from living on the outside looking in, it's just mind-boggling. But I'm at the point now. I don't get angry anymore.
It's a
I'm
clown
not on
world,
one side or
man.
the other. Yeah, it's a
clown
circus. Like, just enjoy the entertainment.
Yeah, it's a clown show, man. It's like, like you'd go to the circus, like 100, 200 years ago, and there would be like the tattooed man or like the fat lady sort of thing. And it's like, just go to Walmart now. Like, it's just, like it's common.
Oh God, yeah. One thing I noticed, because I went to the U.S. a couple weeks ago. In this year, I'll be going fairly often. I have a handful of events there in these next few months, and then I'll be going to South America. But every time I go to the U.S., it gets a little worse, especially in California. San Diego, Los Angeles are usually where I go there. The homeless thing is insane. Like, it looks like Mad Max. It is disgusting.
I have no interest in going to certain, like, if I got a call and somebody said, yeah, we have a podcast in LA, we want you to come down too. We're going to fly you down first class. You're going to get a lot of, exposure, blah, blah, blah. I'd be like, LA? I mean, no, I'm good. Really. Like, I've seen a lot of the US and it's just getting worse, man. Like LA is one of the worst places. San Francisco is pretty fucking bad too. I mean, there's places I would still travel to.
Even in small town US, like a lot of guys I grew up with, I figured, okay, not everyone's going to leave. Like, the cool kids leave and they go to the big city in the state. And then the cooler kids go to, like, I grew up on the West Coast. So maybe they'll go to California. Like, the ballers go to New York and get on Wall Street. Maybe there's a Miami guy, but most guys stay home. And kind of the story was, in small town USA, you stay to your hometown, you don't really leave. And then you settle down, have the wife, white picket fence, the dog, the 2.1 kids or whatever. But now, like, when I go home, and I grew up in a good area, when I go home now, it's like everyone's a meth head. They're all drug addicts. They're all poor. They're all gross. They're all out of shape, overweight. I think at one point I sent a picture to a group of guys in your group, like, hey, glad I missed my high school reunion. Sent a pic of like the hot girls in high school. They're disgusting. They
pretty-
at my
yeah.
age, I'm 35. They look like what women that were 65 looked like back 30 years ago. It's
Yeah.
absolutely insane. Like the decline is very real, and it's in front of your face.
There's a comment here about women, or sorry, about people wearing pajamas in public. I've seen that a lot. The other thing that I've seen a lot, which is really fucking lazy, and I see it at the gym all the time, is I see boys mostly wearing like plastic Crocs sort of sandals with socks. And I don't know about you, maybe
Crocs
I'm
and
dating
socks,
myself,
yep.
but when I was a kid, if you wore like socks with like, exposed shoe, like sort of sandal sort of thing, people would like beat you up. Like they would make fun of you and like, take your bag, throw it in the garbage and beat you up and eat your lunch. Now it's
Yep.
like kids are walking around like they're so like, are your feet that disgusting that you can't just put your fucking bare foot in a sandal? Like your toes look that bad, or they're that messed up that you have to wear a sock with your sandal? Or you're that lazy you can't put a shoe on and fucking lace it up because you don't know how to tie your shoelaces? Like, what is it? It's weird.
Socks and sandals when I was a kid, that was an old stereotype to make fun of like the first wave German immigrants. Or my grandparents are German, so to make fun of like the German communities, it's like socks and sandals.
My dad
And
used
then-
to do it. My dad
Yeah.
used to wear like socks with sandals, right?
And now it's Crocs and socks.
Hilarious.
I think one time I was at a buddy's place in San Diego, and I went down to get Uber Eats, and like my shoes were like they were sweaty, they were drying out or something. I was like, hey, I'm gonna grab your Crocs real quick, and I looked down just how ridiculous the Crocs and socks were. So that's why I say that with a grin on my face.
They look
because-
foolish, man.
Yeah,
They
it looks
look fucking
ridiculous. Yeah,
foolish.
it's really funny.
It's crazy.
Or the PJ thing, I remember when I was in college, again, like 15, 20 years ago, I remember you were starting to see more of that where kids would wear pajamas to class. And I always thought at the time, I mean, I was a smart kid. I was ahead a couple of years in school and I did really well academically, but I didn't like fancy myself like a hoity toity,
Yeah.
nose up at the rest of them type academics. But I always wondered, like, you're spending a lot of money to be here. Why don't you take it just a little bit seriously? And 15 years ago, I'd start seeing the PJs in class, and it's like 7 or 8 years back when I lived in Houston. I got invited to do guest lectures every now and then, which that's a good side income. You can make a good amount of money if you're doing a few hours a week. And just from when I graduated college to this at the time, it would have been like 10 years later. I went into this first class, and everyone in there was just slovenly and unkept and lazy and wearing PJs and just. And for me, I was like, these aren't students. I think. And Rich, you might have heard about this too. Years ago, like 10 years ago, they started talking about like the degree devaluation in the US. Whereas now I have a master's degree. I realized, okay, well, the equivalent education of what would have been a bachelor's degree 50 years ago, you have to have a master's degree. And what would have been a master's degree, you now have to have a PhD. And then again, you see this in front of your very eyes. These kids show up to class, they're not ready to learn. And you go and you give your guest lecture, and they're not engaging, they're not thoughtful. They're just checking a box off of a list, like, oh, get it. It's the recipe. Get a degree, join corporate workforce, buy my house, have my kids, whatever.
You know what
They're
I
just
love
kind of
about those kids
automatons.
that like go to most of those universities and for the most part get those useless degrees? They make great coffees at Starbucks. I love the coffees they make me. They're really good.
Do you know what's funny? I have useless degrees, but I put them to good use. So I know there's a lot of people in the space, and I agree largely. Like, yeah, there are objectively useless degrees, but I realized that when I was in my useless degree program, like my peers, my academic peers, I'm like, this is my competition. Like, I'll be top 1% in my career field within 10 years. And I wasn't wrong, because you look at the level of people they allow in these academic programs, they have no business being there. It's actually kind of sad that they do this. People that barely made it through high school, that can barely read at an adult reading level, putting them in these university programs, straddling them with debt, and then just shooting them in the foot coming out the gate to get a start at life. It's really, it's kind of sickening to know that people do this and they're okay with it.
Sahil says, what are the benefits of being a mentor if you're rich? I still do mentorship. Like, I still offer myself for people that want it, but I don't really want to do it. If I'm being honest, it's not the best use of my time. Like, I can multiply my time better by making content or courses or whatever, rather than I'll sell an hour of my time to talk to somebody, sort of thing. So, I mean, if you already have money and you are mentoring others, you're probably dealing with people like pretty close to your level or just below your level. So you can charge a higher rate, right? If you've experienced life, like I know guys that charge $100,000, like a year for their mentorship program, $25,000 a year for like a group mentorship program. Like, if you've got enough experience and you're respected highly enough, then you can charge quite a bit for your time. Oh, hang on. We got something here on the sandals.
Mhm.
Florida here. I'm in a geographic authority on sandals and flip flops. Socks and sandals are a huge no. Retirement condo cruisers. Yeah, I don't know if it's just in Toronto, but it's like it's prevalent. Like everywhere you go, especially in the summertime, but even in the wintertime, I see these kids walking around with sandals and socks, and I'm like, you goof. Like you just look like a Wally. Like, put on some fucking shoes.
It's uncomfortable too. Like it's pretty hot where I'm at right now. So I've got flip flops on, but
Easy.
there's no socks. And if I'm going to put on low cut shoes, you wear the low cut socks. I think that's the style now.
Anyway, there's probably bigger fish to fry and more important things to complain about than kids wearing socks and shoes. But it's just like it just ties into the whole like enjoy the decline. I mean, if you can't, make yourself look presentable when you go out, then why are you going out? Like I don't know.
It's kind of one of those things
Standards.
like in the dating thing. The bar is so low, the expectations are so low that you really don't even have to try to stand out above the rest. And for guys like me, guys like you, guys in the community, it's really quite an enjoyable existence. Like, yeah, the homelessness is disgusting when I go to San Diego, but I walk around. I'm just like, even in a city like San Diego, where there's some solid dudes there, you don't really see them out anymore. I think all the smart people left, or they're in the process of leaving. So, or like when I get on a flight, I'm like, all right, and I've noticed this on flights, especially. Usually I'll get upgraded to first class if it's not a budget flight. I always get the emergency row. And then I look around the flight. I'm like, okay, well, this flight crew, they're like, hey, if shit hits the fan, we have to rely on someone of this entire passenger class. Who are we going to rely on? And it's like, oh, yeah, like there's no one quite like me or my group of friends if we're traveling together. So I'm starting to notice these things more and more. And again, it's not to boast and say that, I'm better than anyone else. In fact, I try to be pretty humble, but I maintain here I'm going up and then everyone else is going down. And that gap widens so quickly. It's hard not to notice.
Yeah, the PJ thing too. So funny story. So in my business, I offered a lot of benefits, right? Like they had twice the vacation time. They had spare vacation days. We gave them really good benefits. We had amazing office culture. I mean, you guys can go see all that. There's a YouTube channel for Total Debt Freedom. And I've got a lot of old videos on there. There's actually videos on there of me from 2009 if you want to have some fun and go sort by old videos. But I had this one person that said one time, because we had casual, like office attire. So normally I'd be wearing
Casual Fridays.
Like all week long. So I'd be wearing jeans, nice shoes, and like a collared shirt, either a dress shirt or like a collared golf shirt would be like what I would wear. So I try to set that as a minimum standard. I told them like, wear what you would wear to work if you were going out on a date, right? Like look presentable, right? Okay. So it got to the point where people started getting really fucking lazy, and the people that didn't really look presentable started to raise, things like, hey, why don't we have pajama day? And I'm like, hey, why don't we not? And start fucking dressing up instead of dressing down and being lazy, right? It's like there's this general trend for people, like as soon as they get complacent and lazy, it's like, well, let me see how far I can push this. Like, let me see if I can roll out of bed, not take a shower, not brush my teeth, just wear the exact same thing I was wearing in bed and just stroll into work and pretend like I'm going to be professional today. Like, come on.
I noticed that in my career, like I used to, it depends on the industry too. So I started off in the defense industry. We were normally like business casual, watch like the show The Office. That's kind of like polo and khakis or slacks or whatever. In FinTech, my first year in FinTech, we had to wear suits at least once a week if we had the execs from New York coming in. But then all of a sudden, especially in California, which I think they're ahead of the curve, like that whole tech bro attire came in, and now I see it across the American workforce, even in some of the large corporate contracts I run. This is what I wear on the calls, and I dress better than most people on those calls, which it's a $5 V-neck from H&M.
Yeah,
and that happened very quickly. I can't remember the last time I wore a suit at work. I would be completely out of place.
My go-to like outfit usually when I was going out dating, especially in the summertime, was a black V-neck T-shirt, nice blue jeans, and a nice pair of shoes. Always got compliments. I mean, if you're in good shape and you fill out a nice black, like properly fitted V-neck T-shirt, like a $5-10, if it's been, fitted properly, you look good, right? Like you don't have to spend a lot of money to look good. I mean, yeah, you can spend more money to look better, but something simple works too. Like you don't have to. I mean, for God's sake, just make an effort. Like raise your standards is all I'm saying, basically.
That's what I've noticed. Yeah, when people ask like, "Oh, how am I fashionable?" Like, I'm not a fashion guru at all, but for me, it's always like, "All right, well, have a good mold to put the clothes on, and then you can really wear whatever you want, aside from Crocs and socks."
What was that?
Doesn't look good on anyone.
What was that chick's standard in that ghosting Ava? She said Club Monaco, was it?
Yeah, Club Monaco. I'm not familiar with that.
Like, that's-
I'm not a fancy guy though. So
No, but Club Monaco is not even fancy. It's like
Oh.
regular clothing or so. I don't remember what it is, but it's like an average store, like a C-class store. It wasn't like
Mhm.
nice, expensive clothing. Like even the bar that she set, as far as standard wise, so like, you know, what to wear to look good, was like just spend money on like a C average store, basically, is what it was.
I fall into the camp of a lot of guys. A lot of guys in your audience might be able to resonate with this, where I've got really thick quads and like width wise, I'm about as wide as I am tall. Like I'm just really stocky. So that eliminates a lot of clothing manufacturers I can go to. Once I find a good pair of jeans, I buy every color and then stock my closet. Once I find a good V-neck that fits more or less off the rack, buy every color, stock your closet, because it is miserable going clothes shopping when
It's yeah.
I remember when I was a fat kid growing up, like there are times I remember like being really young, like you almost wanted to go to tears, like God, nothing fits me. And then now I see all sorts of weirdly, oddly shaped fat people with clothes that fit them better than they fit me. I'm like, okay, what the hell happened? Like now for me, for example, I noticed like shirt manufacturers. Well, most guys have narrow shoulders and big bellies.
Yeah.
So I have to wear a size or two up, and then now my clothes are draping off me because I don't have a fat waist. It's really ridiculous. Again, how things have changed so quickly.
Yeah, you have to buy either tailored clothing or fitted clothing to look good.
That's the way to do it.
It's the same thing that I do, right? Like if I find something off the rack or at a store that like fits really well, I'll just go back and buy like 5 or 10 of them, right? And like different colors or even the same color, you know, just because I'll just throw it in a line and I'll grab another one that's clean, right? Like that's one of the things that I've learned from a lot of entrepreneurs that are super successful, and you know, you hear them talk about it in like the Tech Valley geeks and all that sort of thing. It's like, you only have like 24 hours in a day. You've got to sleep, you got to be productive, you have to work. And if you can shave off like 5 or 10 minutes on putting together like what you're going to wear for the day, like I know that I don't like them, but guys like Mark Zuckerberg, like all they wear is a fucking gray t-shirt. So their entire closet is just, I think, gray Lululemon t-shirts, like the entire fucking thing, right? So that'll save you 5 or 10 minutes, you know, in the day, you know, maybe like picking out whatever it is that you wear. Same thing with Steve Jobs, right? Like what did he always wear? It was like a black turtleneck and jeans and running shoes.
I do the black V-neck for these videos because I always think if I need to repurpose content in the future, it's more evergreen-ish. Like really a black V-neck. Yeah, a black V-neck never goes out of style. It's been the look since like the 1950s.
Yeah, unfortunately with YouTube, my friend, you'll never get evergreen content anymore. There was a time where like you'd have a video that might go viral and it would continue to be recommended. One of those things that would keep drawing in like new eyeballs for like a year or two. Now it's like you upload a video, most of your views happen within the first 2 to 3 days, and then after that it just drops off and nobody ever sees it again. Right.
I've noticed my best performing videos are my very first videos. They had nothing to do with this type of topic. It was just stuff I was interested in at the time. They continually, I mean, month over month, they're the top performers. I'll have spurts and valleys. I'll have ones where all of a sudden they're coming out the gate strong. Rich, based on your entrepreneurs group, I track down all those metrics, focus on those. They come out the gate strong, and then they hit like 2,500 views in the first 24 to 48 hours, and then they just stop. They just don't get recommended anymore. And then after that, I had like 5 where that happened. And then after that, for like the last 2 weeks, just nothing's going on. So on my channel, whenever that happens, I just take a week or two off, kind of let things settle, and then I go back to what I was doing that was working.
Yeah, I just want to get the stats on that because I'm kind of interested in, you know, since you brought that up, I just want to see what videos get the most views in like the last month to see if there's anything older than that. Let's go to analytics here.
Oh, for yours, yeah.
So top content for the last 30-day period for me are videos that I uploaded. Oh, hang on. I have one in October, which was a short. Shorts actually do okay, but every video was uploaded in November or December for the last 28 days. That is still being viewed in the top 20. Aside from that, it's like you get nothing from like over a year ago. Even though the information might still be relevant, you know, it's why I tell a lot of the guys that are in the School of Entrepreneurship when they're asking about videos, like you can literally make the same video over again. Like if you had a video that performed well 2 years ago, make that same video again, just update it. Because the algorithms will like it and they'll get picked up and it'll show it to, you know, like a bunch of new people. So that's another tip. But shorts also do very, very well too. Like if you have a good shorts editor and you put them out on a regular basis, you put them out, I mean, like you can repurpose it because I put the same short out on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter and Facebook. So you get to redistribute that everywhere. And all you do is you say topic, sub my podcast for more, and then you have that short video there, right? And it draws some more traffic in. But
I've noticed a lot of bigger
it's a slog.
content. I noticed a lot of bigger content creators are doing that, and I think I need to take a page out of their book, because really you get to the point in the first few months, like I don't really have much more to say on the topics I cover. Like my first few videos were like 3 hours long. I really delved and dived into these topics. What else is there more to say about online dating? Take good photos. Don't be a fat ass. Don't be a weirdo.
Yeah, the problem is that nobody goes to your old catalog.
Yeah.
Actually, sorry, not a lot of people go to your old catalog. The only people that go to your old catalog usually are your haters, who like to take your old fucking content and then repurpose it, and they just use it to fucking try to shit on
you guys can do that. Yeah, get me out there. I'm waiting for a hit piece.
They're like the best marketing team ever, man. Your most valuable unpaid marketing team are your haters, because they never endingly talk about you.
Rich, I remember when guys started doing hit pieces on you in the past, and I thought like, oh my God, I'm putting my face out there, my real name. What if someone does a hit piece on me? And now I'm like, God, that lets me know I made it. So I'm still a nobody. There's no hit pieces on me, but guys, if you want to do so, yeah, go ahead. That shit's funny.
Yeah, you'll get it. By the way, guys, I put in the ticker below my email list. So I'm launching the School of Entrepreneurship again towards the end of the month, maybe the first week of January, but you'll get notified first on the email list. Jaren's in the course. You've seen all the lectures.
Yep.
So it's great stuff. So make sure you're on the email list. I'll probably I sometimes do early launches. So I think what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to do a slightly early launch for like 24 hours, and I'm going to offer a big discount if you pay in crypto. So get on the email list. You'll be notified when the course opens for enrollment. It's huge value, guys. I mean, like, you could spend $30,000-$40,000 taking a stupid business course and not learn anything, where I actually get to what is actually useful in this course material. Anyway,
Rich, I was going to say, going back to that mentor question, a good way to get a mentorship, guys, in your group. I've noticed that there's a few of us that refer to you as our mentor. I've said that. I've heard Moff say it. I've heard other guys say like, oh, Rich is my mentor. And really, you don't necessarily even have to pay by the hour. Get in the group, start adding value in these lessons from someone who's been successful in various areas of their life. They'll start to rub off on you if you add enough value. I mean, you'll be up here one-on-one talking to the audience, which I definitely appreciate. I've gotten so much value out of these groups that I can't recommend them enough.
Yeah, 1,000,000%, guys. That's just the community tab, or the community part of our group. Anyway, let's wrap it up. We tore through almost 2 hours today, which is a bit longer than what we normally do, but I'm not around tomorrow. I got too many things going on. Hope you guys enjoy your weekend, and keep an eye out for Monday night, the Unplugged Alpha podcast on at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's the only show that I do where I take call-ins. So if you want to participate, hit the notification bell, subscribe, all that good stuff, like, comment, blah, 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 blah. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Bye.